I have an intruder.
You want to water my plant for me? Okay. Oh yeah, just fuck that shit all the way up. You guys remember that one time I shaved my mustache and beard off? It was so fucking weird. Oh, yeah, I meant to turn that shit off. Why is it still on anyway? Yo, Puff. Good morning, bro. What's good, guys? You know, I gotta scroll through the Facebook real quick. See what's going on up here. Meow. Wow. Wow. Uh-oh. Strictly BBWs. Post any picture. Trying to see what's good in the news. Yo, did y'all see Arnold Schwarzenegger get drop kicked the other day? That was funny. Mm, not a whole lot going on. A bunch of friend requests from, I don't really know, like Harold Coleman from Atlanta. Yo, this Friday I will be in Philly. Finally have a reason to go to the goddamn city again. Like, I be wanting to. Some people just go just to do shit. Like, I don't be wanting to go to New York and Philly just on a whim. Like, oh, let's find something to get into. Like, I like having a specific reason to go anywhere. Uh, but yo, the big homie Fahamu Peku, one of my favorite artists. He's doing a show at the African American Museum of Art in Philadelphia. He put it on Instagram that his show is gonna be there. The opening night is this Friday at 6 p.m. And my man actually tagged me in the post that he made. I was like, "Word? That's almost like a private invite." He's like, "Yo, painted by the Prince. I'm gonna be in Philly." I'm like, "Nigga, I'm there. Just say no more. I'm there." Okay. Wow. This is an artist, and she has 10.2 thousand followers, over 10K followers, and she followed me. Victoria Cantons from London. Yo, Smoke, what it do, bruh? Yo, he did the album. That rap music. Look at Killer Mike's album, rap music. Fahamu Peku did that album cover when it's a painting of him like a little kid, like Mike Jones. I mean, Killer Mike as a little kid. Yo, that's Fahamu Peku. I'm telling you, like people know his work, they just don't know that they know his work. And goddamn, I was telling somebody yesterday, yo, like my man sells his shit for 27,000, 30,000 a pop for one of his paintings, yo. Should be 30 fucking grand. You know, that's the level I want to get to. You know what I'm saying? It's just about. The only thing I feel like I fucked up on is I didn't go to school. Like most career artists, they have their alma mater backing them. They have their university backing them, and when they graduate as a fine art student and they're already doing good and getting traction, then their university pushes them out to different galleries, because most universities have galleries, have their own art galleries, and so that's where they can get their recognition at a young age and do apprenticeships or internships while they're in college, working in major galleries and doing work for other major artists. And like, I fucked that whole opportunity up for myself because I could have did the same thing, but no, I dropped out of school because I was selling drugs and rapping. So, but it's never too late to follow your dreams. You know what I'm saying? Always just continue to chase your dreams. Don't never give up on that shit. Don't ever let anyone deter you from your dreams or make you feel like your dreams or your goals are unachievable or unattainable or too impossible for you in particular. And I think just a lot of peer pressure at the time always made me make bad decisions, but you know, the decision was always mine to make, and it's not like anybody had a gun to my head making me do dumb shit. But like, I see other career artists, like my favorite artists, and they were artists from a young age. They knew they liked art. They did that shit all in high school and college, and they got out and they're artists. And like I said, I could have did the same thing, but no. This nigga want to sell drugs for like 10 years. What? Got that crack, I got that weed, got that yayo, and doing what? For no reason, for nothing. That shit ain't never made me no real money. I never progressed off of that shit, and then it's like, now I'm trying to play catch up on my real dream of being a career artist, and that shit is not easy. Oh yeah, he's a PhD. Yeah, Fahamu Peku, he's a doctor. Dr. Peku. That shit is fucking crazy, yo. Yeah, he has his doctorate, yo. Smoke, this for you, homie. Inhale the dro. Exhale it slow.
I told you I didn't smoke yesterday, but I did.
Alright,
I had
peace,
my
bro.
teeth chamber. I used all that shit in there.
Damn.
I was like, I couldn't help it.
Gotta get that nap in. I feel you, big dog. Yo, Tim, what's up, bro? Haven't listened to my homie David Icke in a while. Here's an interview he gave about a week ago. It was published on May the 8th. It's a little over a week. 2019. The Truth About Money. David Icke and London Real. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but David Icke is probably one of the first people that really woke me up onto how the world functions and actually operates through the control system of natural resources and the power dynamic of the elite. And so I don't listen to him as much anymore just because he does say some crazy shit. But that's the thing, like, even some guys who say crazy shit sometimes, they be saying some real ass shit too. So that's like Alex Jones. Like, I was on David Icke before I got on Alex Jones. But then you grow and you grow and you continue to grow, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I agree with a lot of stuff they say, and then I disagree with some things they say. So let's see what David Icke has to say about this money situation.
Scranton entrepreneurs, investors, and those who want to learn.
Scranton.
Let me move on to money, because money might have been the pre-internet way of controlling the population. What do you tell people?
Ooh, he started off with just a phrase I love to say, pre-internet. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of people don't really realize pre and post-internet. Just like pre 9/11. There are certain events that have happened, like even in my lifetime, that dramatically has changed the world as a whole. And we really look at them as like some superficial, minuscule type shit, but it's not. It's like some really fucking major shit, yo. The internet changed the fucking world. It completely restructured how we communicate with each other. And that's something like that's never been, what we assume has never been possible or has ever happened before, is this form of mass communication. And I remember a time when that shit was not there. The idea was not there out for the general public. You know, it may have been conceptualized by some of the smartest minds of ways that we can all communicate and share information almost instantaneously. But when I was a child, that shit wasn't there, bro. And so we lived our lives a different way because we got our information a different way. And then when emails actually became popular, then they called paper mail like snail mail because it's so slow. You gotta write a letter, you gotta physically travel to the post office and drop it off. They gotta sort it, file it, then get a carrier. He has to take it, he has to sort it and bring it to whoever's address, however long away. And it's like, it took a long time to convey personal, private information. Now it's just like, and you there. You know what I'm saying? That shit is fucking, I don't see like how a lot of people don't really realize the concept of the internet and what would happen like if that shit got turned off. Like right now, if the internet got turned off, you wouldn't know shit. If you couldn't access your phone, you probably wouldn't even know your cousin's phone number or address. You wouldn't know. You don't know how to use a map. You know what I'm saying? Like shit would be fucked up. Majorly fucked up. And that's happened in 2 decades where one piece of technology has completely radicalized the entire way we socialize and communicate. And without it, we would seem almost fucking lost. Yo, always swerving the bullshit, homie. What's good, though?
That's so true. My mom took my phone by accident the other day and I had a heart attack. I was trying to call her onto my phone to get her back to the house to give me my phone.
Yo, that shit. And then that's something else that's like built into us now is this little panic mode. Like if you can't find your phone, your heart rate accelerates a little bit. And it's like it's almost uncontrollable because we've had these devices with us for so long now. And almost since we live in a first world nation, like almost everyone now has access to phones and the internet. Not everybody in our nation, but the majority of us do, because without it we couldn't really be good consumers, because the market wants us to consume. In order to consume, we have to have access, instantaneous access to their products. And without the technology, then we wouldn't be able to do that. So now they've made the technology so cheap that almost everyone can have it, to the point where they were actually giving you these devices. And we're so attached to them that when we don't know exactly where it's at, it's like, oh shit, oh fuck, yo, call my phone. Yo, I'm telling you, and motherfuckers are getting nervous because they can't find their fucking phone, yo. Yeah, I do, and I hate that sensation, and I try to fight that shit. Like, I don't need it, but then you kind of do need it, like. Because it's almost mandatory now, because you got to check your emails, you got to check your text messages, just in case people are trying to tell you some shit, because we can communicate faster. Hey, even like on some job shit, we need you to be here at this address in the morning. And it's like, it's just easier to have this device than to carry around a whole fucking laptop or a computer with you.
Oh my gosh.
That's the females that do that.
What, that freak out about the phone?
Shit, I freak out about my phone.
That has nothing to do with being a female or a male. You got a phone and you lose it, you automatically having a problem.
Oh yeah. Everybody does that.
Bet you a male would freak out if he couldn't check the basketball stats on his phone real quick. Then you'd be like, where my phone? Where my phone? Gotta check the stats.
Yeah. They went from losing purses to losing phones. The women, I don't know, like lost a purse, but that's something that ain't really popular as much anymore. Like, I don't know a lot of young chicks who really carry like purses. Motherfuckers got backpacks and knapsacks, and I'm thinking about getting me a little tote. Like, I have one, but now, like, since I work an office job, I do be having a lot of paperwork and shit, and I swear sometimes I bring work home to do it here, and leave that shit, or if I'm traveling in between places from one location to the other within the city, I'll fucking leave shit at the office that I need. It's like, fuck, I gotta get a fucking bag. No, I'm not getting a fucking fanny pack, nigga. I'm getting a satchel.
A fanny pack is mad cute. Please tell him.
And plus, no, I got like files and folders, and that shit wouldn't fit in no fanny pack. Where's my
That's for like hood niggas that just need their cash and stuff and like quick assist like.
But essentially, I'm gonna get one of these, but a leather one. It's basically a computer bag, but I seen a fucking Fossil Joan. I got a Fossil wallet. I got like a couple Fossil watches. I might as well just get the fucking Fossil tote bag. But it's basically a fucking leather satchel that you can fit your laptop and your fucking folders and paperwork and shit in. And it kind of looks like a purse, but it's not. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. It'd be getting like kind of comfortable and like, how the fuck do you carry? How should I do the one shoulder? Should I do the two shoulder behind the back like that? I don't know, man. I was thinking about just cleaning this shit up and using this, but man, I be having so much paint and shit in here, man. This shit all tattery now.
Have you ever? You know what Phineas and Ferb is?
What?
Phineas and Ferb.
Oh yeah.
You said it. I could not. Oh, I think they saw me almost. I wanted to see someone comment. What's that leg there? Whose leg is that?
No, I'm not. No, if I get some shit, yo, my shit gonna be like classy, fucking, like some grown man leather shit, some leather, some suede. I say this one. I picked this up at a fucking, I think at a yard sale or something. I was like, yo, I could use that to carry paints and shit. But now I actually need this shit for work too, so I'm gonna have two of them. A paint bag with fucking paints in it, and then I'm gonna have a work bag with files and folders in it. Ugh. What the hell? Ugh. Oh shit. Alright. Still working on this commission, yo. Yo, you posted that shit. I seen that shit, yo. I'm talking about some grown shit like that, yo. That shit hot, son. Yo, that shit is hot. That's what I need. Some grown man shit. So working on this underpainting. Let's see if I can. Oh shit. Getting that first layer of paint on there. Django. What the hell? Working on a banister. Yo, you know what? I ain't gonna lie, this is why I charge my homie so much for this shit. You see all these lines? Like, most people don't know, I fucking hate painting lines, yo. That's why I paint people. Look at the dude. There's no lines there. Everything flows. Everything is fluent. That's why I love humans, yo.
Who wrote you?
What?
Um,
But then you got all these curves and all this fluent motion, and then all these lines. There's just lines everywhere. Like, what the fuck? Like, dude, I don't know.
You said what's up, so I thought you knew that person.
Smooth, yo, I got like over 1,000 subscribers to my channel.
He said my nidge, so I thought he knew you.
Yeah, BBW BBC. I don't know. Some shit you just gotta ignore. Like my man Puffs.
Yeah.
I know this nigga in real life. Like,
Yeah, I know that. I remember.
yeah, me and Puff like go back damn near 10 years, 15
I
years.
thought it said smoke. It said smoke. You a mook. Go somewhere. Mook. Dang, this man paint tripped on.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something with that shit.
That looks cool though.
Yeah, that's
I feel like it looks interesting. I wish it was the other way around, but on the outside, you know?
Then it'll fall on the floor.
I'm talking about all the paint and all that shit look cool, but it's in the inside. So
Yeah, but if I scrape it that way, that shit'll fall on the floor. That's why I scrape it that
you're
way.
missing
so
my
it-
point, babe. I'm saying it just looks cool.
Yeah.
But like, I wish it was on the outside. But I'm saying if you never scraped it again, like as
No, but I'm gonna take all this shit off and use it for something, you know. I'm trying to save it. I built a jar of it, like I got some saved. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what I'm gonna do with it, but
can you put it on a painting? Nah.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna
That's
try.
to stick to it.
you know,
I'm thinking like for like those trees with the little flowers on them, little crunchy stuff, or like
like I seen,
a berry tree, or like
I'm copying somebody. I'm not gonna call a name, but I'm.
you're inspired. Not
yeah,
copying.
exactly. Because I'm
It's
gonna.
different. You're gonna add your sense to it, but you're inspired by them.
But goddamn, yeah. I seen him doing that shit. I was like, "What you do with that?" He's like, "I saved it," and then he showed me. I was like, "Oh shit, I gotta try that." That's just like that gold leaf. I kind of fucked that shit up, but I still tried it. That shit's got. Might be getting cotton dry.
I was about to say, what is that?
That is warm and
Apple juice?
bland. No, it was.
It smelled fruity for a minute.
It was a little bit of Gatorade in here, and then I poured some of the other juice in there, and it turned like kind of greenish. And it was good when it was cold, but now this shit it's just wet. There ain't nothing else good about it.
There's no waters in there?
Hmm?
There's no waters in there?
Nope. I need to bring a water and a box of those
Ginger beer.
the
No.
granola bars. I gotta stay off that ginger beer for a minute, yeah. Them shits got 14 grams of sugar in one bottle of soda. That's an ass of fucking sugar, yo. Do you even lift? No, bro. I try not to. I got a bad back. A bad back. Why? Do you even lift? I
Yeah.
feel kind of weird with my sandals on. Why you wanna see who in here with me, bro?
He a creep. He probably trying to do some shit.
Yeah.
This is not what this is about. This is art and education.
This motherfucker.
My guy.
This motherfucker wanted to see what's going on.
Exactly. Oh. He was like, "What's up?" You alright? And then that guy said something else again.
Yo, creation, what's up, bro? Yeah, I already know what time it is. I ain't gonna lie, it's extra
I was about
chill.
to turn that off. I just didn't want to walk across.
That shit is extra chill. But then I was on fucking Facebook. My man was like, I want to say exactly what he said, but he literally just said something about that shit, man. About the weather. Oh, he is.
I'm sorry to disappoint, Smoot, but you're probably gonna be disappointed.
What the hell? He says, close your windows, Northeast PA, because it's going to get cold. Lock in the warmth. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? It's going to get cold. And, yo, it's literally fucking...
It feels like fall and we
Yeah, yo, right now, let me check the weather.
Global warming.
Yo, it's 52 degrees right now.
It should be hot.
And it's not even going to get up to 70 today. It's 52 degrees. It's the end of fucking May. It's almost June.
Memorial Day weekend is next week. That's when the pools and shit is supposed to open.
And it's still in the 50s.
Exactly.
Yo, we waking up to 52 degrees. I'm like, what the fuck is Rob talking about? Lock in the warmth. Oh, I see why. We got the fan in the window. Yo, that shit was cold as shit just now. Like, yo, let me turn that bitch off. And yesterday it was hot as hell in here, yo. It was super hot. Oh my god, I done got so far away from what we were talking about. Alright, we started out with the truth about money. Now, I know the truth about money. Do you know the truth about money? And I had to stop it immediately because the first thing the dude said was pre-internet. And you know, in pre-internet, we had fiat currency, which is still printed money based on debt because the central bank is private and they got to make a profit off of it. And so the American government, the United States of America, does not make money. We don't make money. The Federal Reserve Bank makes money. The United States government makes treasury bonds. We give the bank treasury bonds, the bank gives us bills, but it's not backed by anything. All right, we go through this lesson a lot here. Oh. This is the whole difference right here, bro. One of them says Federal Reserve Note. The other one says silver certificate. The silver certificate is what it says. It's a certificate for silver. I don't want this anymore. Give me the value in silver, and you can have a physical precious metal. Not anymore, because it's not backed by anything. So it's a note. I'm writing you a note saying I owe you something because this is just fucking paper. This is a Federal Reserve note from the Federal Reserve Bank, not the United States government. It's a big difference now where money comes from than where it used to come from and how they used to make money. And so now I'm not even sure what these guys are going to say, but I noticed the trend like 10 years ago. You started getting all these fucking credit cards in the mail, and they would send you like a little fake card and like, oh, you can activate this card. Why are they trying some form of digital currency? I was on unemployment one time, and they stopped giving me a check, and they gave me a debit card that my unemployment payments came on, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And so now almost everything is non-physical transactions. Everything is digital currency. Especially when you start trading in wealth. If motherfuckers saying, oh, something costs $1.2 billion, that's not physical money. That's some digital currency on a fucking computer somewhere that's getting transferred to another computer in a digital format and never actually becomes anything physical. And so now we're going to listen to David Icke talk about the truth about money.
Because money might have been the pre-internet way of controlling the population. What do you tell people to do with their money, how to be aware of money, and how is money used in a similar way as a psychological tool?
Well,
That's
money
I don't think so.
doesn't really exist. It's a theory. If you look at how the world's been wired, it's been done by a banking scam where you lend people money that doesn't exist. We call it credit, and you charge them interest on it. And if they don't pay the money back plus interest, then you get their wealth that does exist. You get their home, their business, their land, their resources, whatever. And we've been through a process of banks lending credit, figures on a screen, greatly in excess of what they have as assets, called fractional reserve lending. And when they can't pay it back, because often the banks have taken actions that have crashed the economy, like in 2008, the banks then get all the things they've lent money on, the real wealth of the world. And what's happened in this process of lending credit, getting the real resources when they can't pay back the credit, has sucked the wealth of the world, the real wealth of the world, into the hands of very, very few people, and left out there most of the rest of the population.
That's how money used to
something
look.
called money. And money only buys anything because we take it seriously. You know, if it's just a piece of paper, and this is the point, it's meant not even to be a piece of paper, it's purely electronic. And so we have this fresh air money worth something because the buyer and the seller believe in it, and only because of that. And the real wealth of the world has been sucked into the hands of a very few people by lending this scam.
Bro, I cannot find a small face 100, yo. I can't, dude. I had that shit one time. I had it for a couple months. I just spent that shit like fuck it. But now, yo, that was like years ago. Like I had this. You don't know how long it take to find this shit, bro. This shit don't be in hard. This shit ain't hardly in circulation no more. Especially this fucking silver certificate. I paid $3 for $1 at a yard sale. Motherfucker was like, yo, give me $3 for it. He wanted like $15 for it. I'm like, bro, don't make me Google this shit right in front of you, homie. It was worth like $5. I was like, I give you $3. I just want it for the educational aspects of it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to spend it. And that's the thing too. Like, that's why I just started collecting the small face money. Just to preserve it, like, because motherfuckers don't remember what the old money looked like no more, yo. Like I said, I haven't come across 100 yet, dude. Like, all those shits might be gone. I might have to pay like $150 for one, like if I find it at a yard sale somewhere. Like, yo, a small face 100, let me get that. Nah, it don't. Like I said, that's why I wish I didn't spend the one. I only had one of them shits. Like that was like 7 years ago, 8 years ago. That's when I started trying to collect this shit. And Yo, it's hard. Like that 50, bro. Boy, that shit was about. Hey, I forgot what I was doing by leaving the bank. I grabbed some cash for something. Yo, I seen a 50 and I needed it though. I got just enough money to go pay the fucking bill. I was like, let me go get another 50. Like, I'm not spending this one, yo. I'm keeping this shit, motherfucker. Yeah. Now, yeah, that was the last one I had come across, yo, that $50 bill. But now, I'm looking for the 100, yo. But normally, that's something else too. Like, going back to this money thing, most businesses don't take $100 bills. Most businesses don't take $50 bills. So now they're breaking the currency down. They're talking about deleting the penny. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to get people off of physical currency. So when I go to the teller machine, like most of the time I just get like a couple $100 in 50s or all 20s. Like motherfuckers don't really just grab out all $100 bills no more. And I think that's probably why it's going to be the hardest to find, because the 100 isn't in high circulation at all anyway. Not in the general public. Not nowadays. You know what I'm saying? I don't know nobody walking around with like $1,200 in their pocket that's all $100, like 12 $100 bills. Like, most motherfuckers don't do that shit no more. This not the 90s. You know what I'm saying? This shit is not the 90s. So, yeah, a small face 100 is probably rare to catch in circulation. But just in general, like, a $100 bill is not rare. But, like, once again, how often do you have, like, 3 or 4 $100 bills on you now? Like, say, especially if you... All right, peace, bro. Especially if you just going grocery shopping, going to pay a bill or two or something. Like, most motherfuckers don't need all that money. And then if you only need a couple $100 that you got to divide up between several things, you're going to get smaller bills anyway. You're going to get mostly 20s and a couple 50s. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, most businesses won't even break 100 for you. You can't hardly go to a gas station and be like, yo, let me get like $25 in gas. Boom, and pay for 100. You know, not unless it's the Indians. They don't care. Indians had that heat under the counter too if you try to rob them. So, but they, you know what I'm saying? Like, most like, oh, and they be having the signs up: do not accept bills larger than a 20. Like, when this happened? Shit changing, man. The whole world changing. This whole money thing changing, and then what's gonna be even more devastating to our culture. Well, I'm not going to say devastating. That's a really negative word. But what's even going to be more, shifting in our culture, and especially in our economy in the next 10 years is these self-driving cars and these robots that are going to take over the factory jobs. And once again, like, physical currency is not going to be the shit. As it is now, you can think about how often do you spend money or your debit card. And just like my homie was saying, like, what it was?
Well, technically, debit is the same thing.
Yeah, but then
Credit card is different. Debit is coming straight from your cash, if you would.
Yeah, but like even like Ubers and shit, like you can't pay cash for shit like this no more. There's the
gotta be electronic.
Yeah, the economy is shifting. And more shit is not physical currency. Like, you gotta have some type of digital currency, yo. You gotta take your physical money and turn that shit into digital credits.
Are the cars gonna be like that? Those Tesla taxis?
All that shit.
You're gonna pay electronic, right?
Everything is gonna be electronic. And so now, like they're saying, like the switch over in money, and then plus, like this radical, more manual labor jobs are gonna be done by automated robots and AI systems, and like all of these things are coming together like faster than people can imagine. You know? Like, a lot of people don't think this shit is like literally knocking at our door like right now. In clubs now, you gotta swipe the chip to get in the club, like no cash. Why? Because somebody gonna come rob us on a good ass club night, and we got motherfucking $16,000 in the fucking Joan, and it's like, and it ain't even 10 o'clock yet. You know what I'm saying? And so, no. Swipe your chip. We don't got no cash here.
Full credit. Another interesting thing about this money situation is when you go to a bank and you say borrow £50,000, they'll type into your account £50,000. In credit. Credit come from? Here. You're not paying back £50,000. You're paying back £50,000 plus interest. It's never created, only the principal. People think that governments create money. Money is overwhelmingly created by private banks. Credit, that's how so-called money comes into circulation. So, what this means is creating credit for the principal but not the interest, is that at no point is there ever enough money, credit or otherwise, in circulation to pay back all the debt and all the interest on the debt outstanding. So people losing their homes and their businesses and their resources, etc., is built into the system on purpose. Now, when there's an expansion of the money supply, an expansion of money in circulation, Peter paying Paul, that seems, to hide it to an extent. But once you squeeze the money supply, you take money out of circulation, it becomes obvious that nothing like enough money in circulation to pay back all the debt. So there's people losing their homes, their resources, their things that they own, for no other reason that there simply is not enough money for everyone to pay back the debt. So what do the banks do? Ooh, we'll have that. And this has been going on for centuries, and they've hijacked the real wealth of the world by doing this. And the next stage, which is in my books from the early 1990s, is cashless society. I was pointing out, purely by knowledge of what this agenda was, that they were going to get rid of cash. And look at it. Cash is flying out of circulation. In some places like Sweden, it's almost totally cashless. They're shutting down bank branches, so you cannot interact with a bank branch locally with cash. You have to do it online because that's electronic money. And eventually they're going to take cash out of circulation. Why? Because anywhere, and you credit card, electronic money. And they say, sorry, the system won't accept your card. Well, you can still pay cash.
It was in my yard.
When there's no cash in circulation, your electronic money, which is meant to go through a microchip eventually,
old appliances that were,
they say the system won't accept your microchip or your card.
Stove.
You have no other means of purchase.
And an old dishwasher.
So whoever controls the system is dictating whether you can purchase or whether you can't, whether you delete or whether you can't. And the only other alternative to that would be barter. And I'll tell you what the plan is. The plan is to ban barter, to make it illegal, on the basis that they won't be, they can't tax it. So that's along the line as well.
How does cryptocurrency play into this?
Well, cryptocurrency. Cashless society.
Yeah.
Now,
and created by a private institution, another currency created by a private institution.
Yeah, I'm not saying that that there couldn't be good things with things like Bitcoin and stuff like that, as long as cash stays in circulation. That's the key.
So you have an anonymous option.
Yeah.
Really.
While cash is in circulation, you have other points of or ways of purchase. Once there's no cash and you have only cashless digital currencies, then whoever controls them controls everything. And not only that, they can wipe your bank account. If you're a dissident to the system, as this moves on into more extremes, they can wipe your bank account.
Now, they're talking about this universal basic income, where everybody above the age of 18 gets $1,000 a month or something like that. But if they implement that, do you think they're gonna send you a check or send you fucking cash money? No, they're gonna give you like some kind of debit card that they put $1,000 a month for you on it. They're gonna track all of your spending habits and what times and hours of the day you spend, what products and what brands you buy the most. And then if you do something they don't like, they'll just like hit a enter key, and then now your $1,000 is gone. You know, this shit is getting crazy and crazy, yo.
I want to see black sand.
Because all it is figures on a screen. You can wipe figures on a screen in a second. You can, from a central point, crash the entire economy by controlling digital money and digital processes. And the idea eventually, problem, reaction, solution, create the problem and then offer the solution, is to have a gigantic crash, which they will instigate, and then come the crash, they will propose a totally new economic system of central control to be the solution to the problem they've created, which is crashing the economy. And the more control they have over money digitally, electrically, the easier it is to do that.
Yeah. That man just said almost word for word what I said, yo. And that's because I've been listening to it for a long time. Like David Icke, like I say, he wrote this book called The Biggest Secret. Y'all read that shit in like 2000. And yo, he just talked about Shaman, what up, bro? But he talked about so much like crazy conspiracy shit. Like I really couldn't believe a lot of that shit. To begin with, he was like, oh, that he was the first person I heard use like military industrial complex. And then he started talking about this shit called false flag attacks, and I'm like, yo, what the hell? Watching that work. And then and then like he did lose me in that book, yo. David Icke's The Biggest Secret, yo. He talks about, you hear his accent, he's like some British dude. Born and raised over across the pond or whatever, but goddamn, yo, I'm from South Carolina. In his book, he mentions this weird ass story that we got in our state from a town that actually is not far from where I grew up at. And actually I have cousins who grew up in that town. It's called Bishopville. And yo, way back in the fucking 80s, yo, swear to God, this is no joke, yo. Okay, this shit was in the newspaper and everything. There's like some people in Bishopville saw a lizard man and said this motherfucker was like 7 foot tall, big ass lizard like creature, yo. Yo, Puff no. Puff from side. Hey, yo, that's no fucking lie, yo. Puff no. That's some real shit from back in the day, yo. It's called the Lizard Man, yo. And then, yo, I'm reading David Icke's Biggest Secret, right? And this dude from Britain. And he talks about his, like, and there was one reported case from Bishopville, South Carolina. I'm like, how the fuck this dude know about that shit, yo? That shit, like, tripped me the fuck out, yo. I was like, yo, this nigga, he done researched everything. Every kind of spotting, sighting, or he pulled that little incident up and wrote about it. And he was like, then he started talking about the lizard people. And that's when he started losing me a little bit. And then this motherfucker started talking about different dimensions, yo. Like, there's entities in the upper fifth dimension who are controlling lesser beings and the moon matrix. And I was like, this motherfucker getting crazy. But a lot of the shit he say about money and real life shit, like, that shit makes sense. Then he started talking about that interdimensional lizard shape-shifting hollow moon. And then you gotta listen to it though, and you form your own opinions and take from it what you want, you know. But He go deep on all kind of stuff, yo. You know, I wasn't ready. So, interdimensional shape-shifting lizards are controlling the emotions of humans from their moon base. I'm like, David, what are you talking about? I don't understand this. But a lot of other shit is just like it's basic. Once you start talking about politics and government and shit, pull it up. Scratch your back.
You're gonna just say that?
Yeah.
I can see that. It's like a claw, bear claw.
These fucking squirrels. I see you, bitch.
They love your backyard.
Yo, they eat my trash and they ate a hole through my trash. Yo.
The bin?
Yo,
the plastic.
They ate a hole through the lid to get
Oh my god.
to get to the fucking trash inside. So now, like, I swear to God, I gotta put like. Sometimes if like the trash is high up now, I gotta put fucking Tabasco and paprika and shit on there. Somebody said coffee.
Urine too works.
Urine. Somebody said coffee grounds work, but I don't.
Bottom, sprinkle it around. That keeps like the animals out too. Like.
I'll just piss back there then.
Yeah.
I never heard that before. But yo, them squirrels, yo, they ate a hole through the plastic lid.
5 of them.
And they're yo, somebody was like, yo, why your squirrels so fat? I'm like, nigga, they eating my trash. They eating everybody trash around here. Like the trash eating squirrels,
These
yo.
guys are tiny, but the ones that unfortunately
Yo,
has
trippy
their
leg.
leg messed up,
Trippy leg.
them niggas is they was beefy.
We all slaves to the lizards. This is what I'm saying. It's true. It's true. We all slaves to the lizards. Yo, the lizard man is coming. Goddamn from the lower fourth dimension.
What's the lizard? Some place. I'm gonna Google
Yeah.
it.
That moon matrix is some crazy shit though. For the simple fact that probably about almost 10 years ago, NASA did some experiments where they shot like a missile at the moon. So what they were saying was if we impact the moon with enough force, it would kick up enough debris and make an impact crater large enough where we can see if there's frozen water. And they had all kind of sensors that when the components passed through the cloud of dust that it would, analyze everything. And so it was like some really sophisticated, cool idea, right? And so they struck the moon and realized that the impact didn't really penetrate the surface past a certain level, and the moon began to vibrate and resonate kind of like a bell. And they even, that's coming straight from NASA, like it vibrated like a bell, which means it would be hollow. And then it did that for like an hour or so, and then it just immediately stopped. And so, I don't know, when you start looking into David Icke's moon matrix theories, the numbers that he give are really good too. And he takes his, because he's not a scientist, so he takes his stuff from like real astrophysicists or whatever who study those fields. And he came back with some numbers saying that, most planets in proportion to from their size to the size of their moons, the moons are relatively small. And Earth, the moon compared to Earth is fucking ridiculous. It is like it's big as fuck. Like no other planet should have a moon as big as we do with the size of our planet. And that it's hella fucking close. It's so close that it affects the fucking tides on the surface of our planet. And he's like, that shit is weird. It does not happen anywhere else in our solar system where a planet has a moon comparable to the size as ours and as close to the planet. And so those are the only weird ass anomalies. But is there something inside the moon? Was the moon placed here by Inky and Enlil. I don't know. I don't know. You know, is the world flat? Y'all want to get into that shit, man? Y'all want to get into the flat Earth debates? Cause that shit is like so crazy now that so many people,
A lot of people think it's flat.
motherfuckers think the
Retarded.
Earth is flat. But then they give you all these fucking facts and all these different anomalies and
You being able to see planet Earth from space should tell you the Earth is not flat.
then they say nobody's ever
Period.
been to space. Like space is fake. And that's NASA's fake and it's like really? But then you see these bubbles in space and all this other weird shit that NASA gives off. And it's weird. That shit makes you think. But it's like nobody I don't know. Me personally, I don't know. I've never been into space to look at the Earth for myself. And I know they can make Iron Man look real, so what can't they make look real?
They about to start sending people to Mars.
That's what I want. Elon Musk says, in the next fucking 20 years, he's like, I'm getting people to Mars. But the only reason he says that is because he's scared we're gonna fuck this planet up so bad. He's like, something's gonna happen, and the human race won't survive if we're only confined to the Earth. And you guys are going to kill everybody. So initially, if you think about it, who are they going to send on the first expeditions to Mars? Joe Blow? No. They're going to send the fucking smartest of the smartest of the smartest people. And so they're going to have this like colony of super brains over there doing fucking genetic engineering on themselves, turning themselves into Martians where they're not really humans anymore and all kind of crazy ass shit.
Somebody said the moon is an antenna.
The moon is an antenna. It's harvesting the frequency of Alpha Centauri, bro. You know what I'm saying? Our mother site.
It's a fact though. We're not gonna survive for another 50 years. There's no way. I watched some like documentary in class, and it was like we're using the resources way like too fast. Certain places are going into drought that have never been in drought before. Agriculture, how they're gonna grow food.
Oh, definitely.
We are doomed. Iron website, yes.
But that's something else too. Like we are fucking this planet up. Like the bees alone. Like,
Right. What you mean bees are going extinct? Huh?
They said the fucking the elephant might go.
Really?
The giraffe is on there.
Oh my gosh! I think I did hear about the elephant, but not the giraffe.
They said there's like a
we
couple.
were kicked off the moon resetedly? Can't say that word. Resetedly by aliens.
Recently.
That's how you spell recently.
Yeah.
Reset. That's probably what they meant though.
Yeah. That's why they say we went back. Oh, we were going to the moon in the 60s and 70s. Man, this motherfucking, it's damn near 2020, nigga. Y'all, we ain't got no, that's what Elon Musk was like, we don't have a moon, at least a moon base where we can practice like going to Mars and really have experiments on how long humans can stay in space. Like y'all
stepped on the moon and that was it.
And that was it. It's like,
Put the flag and left.
But now people's like, why haven't we gone back? And that's what everybody say, like the aliens kicked us off the moon, They're like, y'all ain't ready for this shit yet, nigga. Stay in your own planet. Y'all gonna bring nukes up here. They said that's where Hitler went, What's that movie? You ever seen that movie, Iron Flag or some shit, where it's Nazis on the moon? It's like, what the fuck? I love a good conspiracy theory. Uh-oh. What time you getting off, Shaman?
The other person left, I think. They didn't say nothing when I walked past.
No.
I was waiting to see.
My stomach's starting to growl now. Oh, the line, Joe. Shit.
Who, you?
Yeah. I swear, like, I can never get lines straight as I want them, even with a ruler. I mean, and I know what it is when a motherfucker have a super duper straight line. Yo, that shit be tape.
Yes, actually, that is a good thing to do.
Motherfucker, I be looking at some paintings. I'm like, yo, that shit so fucking straight. That motherfucker tape that shit, yo.
And then peeled it up.
But then that shit take too long. I've never actually tried to tape. Have I? I don't know.
I think it would take long because there's lines going all different directions.
That's what I'm saying. So I would have to tape one
And then
section.
what if the tape pulls off the pencil?
No, that's why I outlined it with the black paint. Now that shit ain't never coming off.
That's not what I mean. If they starting with tape, you think they using paint?
Huh?
If they put in a whole bunch of tape on the painting to do the straight lines, you think they using paint to do that? Nah, they using a pencil.
No.
Unless they that nice.
No, I'm talking about to get when I'm painting. Like right now, if I take this off, I can just paint fast as hell and then peel it up and then have a straight ass fucking line. But then if I do that, I have to wait for a whole nother section to dry before I can tape it up again. I think that'd just, I don't know. But
I'm about to call these people on Monday. Cause I got mad. My lawyer, you read that text, right? I was like, why would I do that? I feel like that's incriminating myself. Right? No?
I wouldn't tell them motherfucker shit.
Well, obviously I'm gonna be like, yeah, but I'm not gonna be like, I do it daily. Well, that is true, but I don't want them to think I'm like a fiend or something. Like, I feel like if I say that, it's not gonna be good. I was gonna call him and be like, why did you want me to say this to them? That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Alright.
It's all good though.
Oh my god.
That will actually work out better for me if that's the case. I have to tell you every time I'm here I do that, so that means I don't have to be so great. Oh, I like how this brush feels. Is this the one you use for the face?
I need an apprentice in here.
You need a what? An apprentice? Check you out.
Have a motherfucker work on my paintings for me. Yeah, I was
You
watching
have
this.
to be good.
Yeah. All I gotta do is set the palette up. Like, yo, these are colors you use. These are the areas you put it in. I just want you to do this section right here. I seen this one documentary. That's all this dude did, yo. He came up with the concepts and the drawings, but the big paintings, he had like 2 or 3 people working on one painting, and he said that's his painting. He's like, this is my painting. I'm going to sign it like it's mine. It's like, dude, you're not fucking painting it.
Yeah, I don't believe that's yours.
You're not painting it.
You could be the person who did the image, but the painting is not done by you.
He was like, no, it's because I set up every
3:30 Shaman said.
Oh, long day. I set up all the colors and I tell them exactly where to put it. So it's as if my hand is actually doing the work because I made it the process so intense that they're doing exactly as if I were doing it.
No.
And it's like, no. And then if I didn't do it this way, I wouldn't have enough time to get all these paintings done in a year. And it's like, well, you just need to paint faster.
Or don't take us more than you can take. Chew, bite more than you can chew. Boom. I'm inky. It's all your fault. Ooh. Do you want me to go make something? Would you rather
I don't matter.
surprise you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, now we need to find something else to listen to. Yo, the lines. Yo, I'm about to fucking pass out, bro. I ain't even playing. Yo, this banister gonna look hot when it's done, but like I said, I would tape it up, man. Taping that shit up just seems like it'll take too long. How Styles P do a final recap on the Game of Thrones? Nigga, I ain't know you watched that show.
You can now rate.
Video on the rally. Any chance I could ask you some questions? So you're out here for the Yang rally. I see you have a sign over here. It says Yang Gang. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're an Andrew Yang supporter?
Yes, I'm an Andrew Yang supporter because I believe in universal basic income, and I believe that the government should be helping people survive in this world more than they are now.
Yeah. So I know we already have some government programs. Do you think we should strip those away and just do UBI, or kind of have them work side and side together?
I feel like this is an addition to those programs. This is something that is going to be more beneficial to all Americans, where those are things that are very seclusionary and that only a few groups of Americans can access them.
Yeah. So I know Andrew Yang's kind of like an outsider candidate. He's never done anything. He's never worked in government in the past. Who have you supported in the past that you think is similar to him, and how'd you become an Andrew Yang supporter? Where are you hopping off? What train are you hopping off on to get on the Yang train?
So last year I was supporting Bernie Sanders, who has been called a political outsider because he runs as an independent.
It feels like he's been a senator for decades now.
Right,
yeah.
As an independent. Then running as a Democrat, that was sort of him being an outsider. Andrew Yang, however, is completely outside. So I would say that I'm still supporting Bernie Sanders, supporting Andrew Yang as an ancillary candidate.
So if Andrew Yang isn't nominated, you'd support Bernie Sanders?
Yes, I would also hope that if it comes to that all of the Andrew Yang supporters would then go towards whichever Democratic candidate is in the lead, because at this point we just have to beat Trump.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you don't like Trump. What do you think like some of the worst things about Trump are? Just a couple off the top of your head.
Number one thing is his denial of climate change. This is the number one issue for millennials and people of this planet, and he denies it. The second is his outright refusal to do anything about income inequality. As a member of the billionaire class, it would not benefit him, so he's not going to do it.
He said he did tax cuts that supposedly helped.
You know why you never hear black people talk about climate change? It's getting hotter and the sun gonna shine brighter. So? Everybody else like, the polar ice caps are gonna melt. We're gonna lose 30 miles of coastline in the next 100 years. And it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna be here. I'm just gonna enjoy the weather. Bad jokes.
Class, are you buying any of that?
No, the math says no. It was only for the billionaire class. There was nothing to help people in the middle class.
And I know a lot of the energy surrounding Yang and his candidacy has kind of been this meme magic. There have been a ton of memes on Twitter, on the internet about him, a lot of Pepes. What do you think about that Yang magic surrounding him?
I think that memes have a very powerful influence on our culture. A lot of millennials and generation after us are consuming content in the form of memes. So any candidate candidate that's able to hop on that and really, change policy based on their memes, I think they have a good chance.
So we're out here at Washington Square Park for the first Yang rally in New York City. Could you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here? I have the $1,000 Andrew Yang bill over here.
There are many reasons. I think the main thing about Andrew Yang is I feel like the way that he speaks, the way that he, the way that he conducts himself, the policies that he has in mind, and kind of he makes his decisions based on facts, right? It's not like any sort of like pandering to anyone on the right or left. No, not too much identity politics, that sort of stuff. He gets right to the meat of the issue. And I'm a software engineer. I see the automation problem, and I see it with my own eyes at work, and I see it. I see the issue, and it's going to be a big problem, and no one else is talking about it. I'm also a big proponent of the land value tax, and I think historically the universal basic income land value tax has always been together. So affordable housing is a huge issue for me, and I think he's one of the only people who has the forward-thinking personality to actually make changes and implement actual radical policies. Right.
I had a couple of questions on the things you said. So we've had large-scale automations in the agricultural revolution. We've had an industrial revolution. Jobs have gone away and they've popped up in other areas. This isn't the first time where we'll see a lot of jobs in one sector go away. Why is this time going to be different?
Well, I mean, there is the issue, you kind of like in the industrial revolutions, they had the Luddites who were like, oh, you know what, these machines are taking over their jobs, we're going to fight the machines, and we're kind of seeing the same sort of thing again. Even though the jobs come back, you have depressed wages, that sort of thing.
I know Andrew talks about how the people who do end up losing their jobs don't usually end up going back to the workforce too. So that's one of the big things. When people lose their jobs, it's not like most of them are going to get retrained. If you're a truck driver, a 50-year-old truck driver, you're probably not going to get.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, education is very. This cost of education is very high, and of course, Andrew Yang is very his whole policy on vocational schooling as another a secondary way to address this issue kind of gets to that point as well, right?
Since we mentioned taxes earlier, I know one of the ways that he planned on paying for the $1,000 a month of freedom dividend was through a VAT tax.
Yeah, VAT tax. Yeah.
Do you think there will be unintended consequences for the American consumer given those taxes?
Absolutely, but I think it really depends on. So, in economics, there are kinds of a case where you have a marginal. Sorry.
Do you want to finish? Anything else you want to say? I think that's Yang.
No, it's not him. It's not him. So in economics, there's marginal propensity to consume, marginal propensity to save. If people consume, if people save more than they consume, then you're going to have decreased productivity. You're going to have decreased demand in the entire economy. That kind of tax is going to be consumption tax. Is going to kind of hurt the poor. People can wind.
It's just because I know it sounds really good. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know there will be unintended consequences.
Of course, there's unintended consequences.
If there was a Democrat candidate who said, you know what, screw it, $2,000 a month, would you be inclined to support them instead?
If just for saying $2,000 a month, to me, basic income is it's an inevitable thing for me. I don't really care that much. That to me, $1,000 is not the thing that makes the campaign.
Yeah.
Andrew Yang is what makes that campaign, right? Someone someone can say Bernie Sanders has a job guarantee, which is effectively another kind of way of
it's a government handout.
Another government handout, but job guarantee I find has even worse issues that than basic income has been a thing for. It's not a new idea, right? Basic income has been around 200 years.
We have it already in the form of Social Security, if you'd like to think about it like that.
Yeah, but even before then, Adam Smith, David Ricardo, classical economists.
It's not a new idea.
No, it's not a new idea.
So we're out here today at Washington Square Park for an Andrew Yang rally. Right. Could you tell me a little bit more about what it means for you to support Andrew Yang and why you're out here?
Yeah, so Yang is a person that has multiple coalitions by his side. He has libertarians, conservatives, progressives, all into one batch. So for someone like me, I consider myself
Yo, why do Andrew Yang supporters sound so much smarter than Trump supporters? I'm just making a generalization here. It may be slightly biased and stereotypical, but when you listen to Trump supporters, like the average Trump supporter at a rally, yeah, we love Trump. Yeah, why? Oh, because he tells it like it is. And because Jesus is coming back. He's keeping our jobs. Yeah, but how? and like Trump supporters don't really know a lot of his policies. These guys are only focusing on the one policy of universal basic income, but at least they know what it is. But it's still weird. Like, I don't know. These dudes actually sound somewhat knowledgeable. And the one guy was like, I'm a software engineer, and I see it every day at my job. Like, automation is coming. It's coming. It's like, yo, what the fuck?
Libertarian kind of guy, and his policies ranging from UBI to technology, to trying to create jobs through UBI as opposed to like creating more programs for welfare, like program number 41, like as Democrats always suggest. So something with like UBI that really trickles up as opposed to trickle down economy. I think that would be really progressive, and it would really empower the disenfranchised people.
I want to talk a little bit about UBI being this libertarian idea because I've heard it a couple of times earlier. One of the things that I do think UBI brings in, like a libertarian idea, if you want to call it, is how it's not like other, I'm going to call them entitlement programs, where as you climb up the ladder, you're forced to spend the money in one way or another. But with UBI, Andrew Yang's really just saying, here's $1,000 and you do what you want with it. It's not tied to anything. So could you explain how's this a conservative or libertarian idea?
Right. So first of all, there's no disincentive to keep going. You keep the money and it's yours. You get $12K a year. The more money you get, the money is still yours. So and there's no administration costs. There's no social worker trying to. Exactly. There's no social worker trying to oversee how much money you're making. There's no like a watchful eye saying that you're not really disabled, so we're going to take away your disability checks. There's not a lot of poverty or public housing saying that you make a certain threshold. So we cut all of that off.
Your writing matters. Luckily, you've got Grammarly on your side. Try the browser extension to improve your
off like the middleman, like all that administration costs, we'll just give you $1,000, yours to keep. And on top of that, he's also cutting social programs down. So you can't opt in for both social welfare and UBI. So you have to pick one or the other. And of course, people are probably going to pick UBI.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I feel like that's a very important, nuanced part of it.
Yeah, you can't get both.
Yeah, I mean, on your phone or like with please.
I like to consider myself doing my part for journalism.
Absolutely, me too. Let me know when we're rolling. We're good over here. We'll make it quick though because like 2, 3, 4 minutes because I want to pick off some other people too.
Of course. I mostly want to ask who your constituents are.
Yeah, can I? I mean, I'll start, but I don't have any constituents. I have a YouTube channel, so there is no constituency. I'm not running for something.
That's all I want to know.
Absolutely. So we're out here in Washington Square Park for an Andrew Yang rally. Can you tell me a little bit more about what it means for you to be out here?
It means several things. First of all, it means that I support him. Second of all, I'm trying to get an image of who else supports him.
Yeah.
I want to see who shows up to these things.
When you say who, like, are you saying like age group, like color of skin, ethnicity? What are you talking about?
Demographics for sure.
Yeah.
The socioeconomic aspect of it, the age, nationality.
Sure.
But I also want to get a glimpse of who the people are, what their temperament is.
Yeah. So I want to follow up on that part. Andrew Yang doesn't pander into identity politics like a lot of his Democrat counterparts do, and people on the opposite side of the aisle do too. Sure. What do you think about that, and would you like to see other candidates stopping to be so heavily ingrained in this identity politics business?
Oh yeah, of course. Absolutely, 100%. That's the main thing. I think we all believe the system is broken.
Okay.
I think people don't understand how dangerous it is.
When you say the system is broken, Yang talks about automation taking jobs away. When you talk about saying the system's broken, what directly do you mean?
Politics and money.
Please elaborate. So like campaign finance law, like stuff like that. I don't believe he's accepting super PAC money, but I know some Democrat candidates are accepting money from even like things like big oil. So
definitely that. It's too late to make reforms.
Okay.
The reforms needed to happen 100 years ago.
Okay.
At this point, the whole thing needs to change.
Okay. And is Andrew Yang your candidate who's gonna change things? Do you see him doing that?
If anyone, he's the one.
Sure. If Andrew Yang doesn't end up being the Democrat nominee, who would you be supporting?
Nobody.
Assuming you're not going to be Trump.
Nobody.
But then isn't that technically a vote for Trump?
No.
You're not going to be supporting the person who's running against him?
The math does not play out that way, no. Statistically, no.
Okay, sure. So you're not even sold on like a Bernie Sanders type who has some policies that are similar. I'll tell you one. Medicare for All is something Andrew Yang's a big proponent of.
Editorializing at this this point.
Okay.
As a journalist, to be fair.
Sure. So, like in 2016, when Hillary beat out Bernie Sanders, I don't know if you were a Bernie supporter, but you wouldn't vote for either.
No.
Okay, interesting. Okay. You also said you had a couple of questions. Was there anything you want to ask me?
I mostly wanted to ask who your constituents were, who you represent.
I genuinely think I only represent me. All my questions come from me, and they're my original thoughts.
If that is true, then why are you here?
I'm a journalist, so I cover different political events going on in different areas to disseminate, because not everybody could be at the rally. So I'm asking the questions that I think people want to know from the rally.
I mean, given the fact that you can cover anything personally, why here?
I like politics, and this is the only rally that was going on. Actually, there is another rally, but I think this is the most significant rally going on now. Tomorrow, when there's a different rally, or next week when there's a different rally, you can bet your sweet buns I'll be there too. So
I think rallies are like a good place for journalistic activity.
If rallies are a good place for journalistic activity.
Journalistic activity. Journalistic.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And they're heavily encouraged to come here. And we're all the, like, I don't know if you saw, but behind Andrew Yang, there was a ton of media members. At all the rallies, there's a ton of media members. These are where different candidates get to talk about their different policy proposals. That's why people come to them. So journalists show up and are able to talk about those ideas. I'm able to talk to different people here. Just like how you said you came here to see the different demographics. People who watch my video are going to be watching to see the different demographics. Who's showing up? So really, I'm providing a service for people like you.
That's good.
Any other questions?
That's it. No, it's a good question.
All right. Who would you want to see him pick as his VP if he was able to get to that stage in the candidacy?
Ooh.
Because I have no idea, because he's such an outsider.
Yeah.
So
maybe like Elon Musk, another entrepreneur who maybe has some skill sets to be applicable to the government.
Yeah, that's great. Another question about Yang. He started, I think it's Volunteer, Venture for America, that helped encourage students to be entrepreneurs. Do you think that's the key, that we should be encouraging a lot of different people around us, citizens in America, to become entrepreneurs?
Yes, I believe that entrepreneurship is the gateway to the American dream. I think that if you're just trying to get a job, then you're really not making it in this world, where if you're an entrepreneur, you're working for yourself and you have a better chance.
Yeah. Andrew Yang doesn't really pander into identity politics at all. Like, it seems a lot of the other Democrat candidates are. Do you specifically appreciate that about Andrew Yang, or would you like to see him change it up and be like some of the other candidates in the Democrat field who constantly, in my opinion, virtue signal and things like that, which I see none of from Andrew?
Right. I think he stands out in that way, so I would encourage him to continue doing that, to be as, away from the rest of the Democrats as possible, especially candidates like Joe Biden, who are establishing Democrats, and really make a name for himself.
One thing I really admire about Andrew Yang is that he goes on everybody's shows. He's been on Fox, he's been on the Joe Rogan podcast, he's been on Vox, he's been on the Ben Shapiro show. Do you think more Democrat candidates should follow in his footsteps and start ingratiating themselves and trying to have a conversation with people across the aisle?
Yeah, it's not just about, talking to your audience. You have to talk to everybody, because...
The American people.
Exactly. And they're watching all different things. And a lot of millennials, for instance, don't watch TV anymore. I don't even have a TV in my house. So I'm getting all of my content from YouTube, from shows that are, putting out on those types of channels.
Have you seen Andrew Yang a lot on YouTube? Because I watch a lot of YouTube too. He's doing interviews with everybody, even like small YouTubers. So that's something really impressive. Was there anything else you wanted to note?
Yo, this dude said I don't even have a TV in my house. I get all of my news from YouTube and stuff. And you know what? That's almost true for me. I never really thought about that. Like, I don't watch news, but there's news clips. There are clips of the actual news on YouTube, and they post it on Facebook and Instagram and shit like that. But it's like, I have TVs. I got an ass of TVs. But I don't watch the TV on it. I watch Netflix and YouTube on them shits. And Fire Stick. So, yeah, that is another way the world is changing. Like, the apps, yo. You use your TV for apps. Now you got a smart TV. You don't have to watch regular network television anymore. We have an app for that now. Oh, The lines. Behind the lines. The lines behind the lines are divine. Are you guys supporting Andrew Yang with the Yang train? Yang gang? Yang gang? Gang bang? What?
I really like the fact that he has this slogan that says that he's the opposite of Donald Trump because he's an Asian man that likes math, which is true because Donald Trump doesn't factor in science or any reason into his policies, whereas I think that Andrew Yang would do that if he was elected president. He would really take into account the scientific approaches of today and really have a science-based policies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. If Yang didn't end up being the eventual nominee of the Democrats, who do you think you'd end up supporting?
I mean, honestly, like, you know, I would definitely vote for the Democratic candidate no matter who it is. If it is Trump, I don't think Trump is a very effective president. I don't really see, like, even though, you know, like...
He likes to run through the the economy numbers, like historic low unemployment right now with, like, Hispanics and the black community. You're not worried about that stuff.
I think that most of the other Democratic candidates don't really have a solution that'll make that better, right? I will vote for them. I will support them, not very like strongly, but I don't see them like actually fixing anything either. I don't see like I don't think Joe Biden's effective. I don't think Kamala Harris is effective. I think they've had like very very bad histories. Bernie Sanders potentially, but Bernie Sanders is probably going to implement things incorrectly in my opinion. Pete Buttigieg, he's like a good speaker, but he doesn't have a platform.
He has no platform.
No platform. I get why people like him. I think he's a cool person. He's very smart, but no platform. Mike Gravel sounds interesting, but he's a very long shot candidate.
I also wanted to follow up. One of the couple of things that I really admire about Andrew Yang is that he'll go on any podcast. He'll go speak to Ben Shapiro. He'll go on Joe Rogan. He'll speak to Vox. He'll talk to Fox Business. He'll talk to everybody, and he doesn't pander in identity politics. I think there's a really big contrast between how he conducts himself like that and the other Democrat candidates do. Is that one of the reasons you like Yang, and do you think other Democrat candidates should start following suit?
I think that it is not like a major reason why I follow him. It's something that I like.
To write anything on your computer, you need to get Grammarly.
I write pretty much all day, every day, and Grammarly makes
I can say what I want to say. It catches all.
Grammarly is like my secret weapon for writing papers.
It's the perfect tool for your resume.
Like about him, I mean, I think identity politics has I think social justice is an important thing. There's a lot of problems in like there are a lot of problems in our society that need to be addressed. But the difference between Andrew Yang and the other Democratic candidates is Andrew Yang is actually going to get things done to impact, to actually fix these social policies. Whether it's like criminal justice reform,
you could call UBI a form of reparations too, right?
I think so, yeah. I think there are other more effective things like land value tax, which is what I'm really want to push for. I actually have a proposal that I'm actually meeting with Andrew Yang after this. I have a proposal for a land value.
To proposals, we give every American $1,000 a month, free and clear. If you have a little bit more freedom from scarcity, then you can start making moves towards the sort of work that you want for yourself, that you value, that you would find fulfilling and exciting.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Special. We're joined this week by Andrew Yang, author of the book The War on Normal People. I can't wait to get to my conversation with Andrew. But first, can you believe it's already April? Time has a habit of getting away, but if you have a mortgage or kids or anyone depending on your income, you're going to have to spend some of that time getting life insurance. If you need life insurance but you don't want to spend a lot of time comparing it, you should give Policy Genius a try. Policy Genius is the easy way to buy life insurance online. In just 2 minutes, you can compare quotes from the top insurers and find your best price. Once you apply, the Policy Genius team will handle all the paperwork and red tape. No commissions, no hidden fees, just more time saved for you. And Policy Genius doesn't just make life insurance easy, they also make it easy to find the right home insurance.
I didn't know Ben Shapiro did commercials like this.
Financial protection. So, if you need life insurance but you're short on time, head on over to PolicyGenius.com.
I'll sell your life insurance.
It's easy, it saves you money, And not to belabor the point, but it is indeed fast. Policy Genius spend less time comparing life insurance, more time doing literally anything else. It's the responsible thing to do. You're an adult, you want to take care of your family. I know, you don't think you're going to die tomorrow, but the fact is, you don't know. And that's why you ought to be checking out Policy Genius right now.
I have life
it's not
insurance,
going to cost you a
but
lot of time, and you'll be doing something valuable for yourself and your family. Policy Genius. Spend less time comparing life insurance, more time doing literally anything else on planet Earth. PolicyGenius.com. That's PolicyGenius.com. Go check it out right now.
Damn,
right,
how many times did they pay you to say
appreciate it.
Policy Genius?
Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, I just have to thank you again for coming on the show because you invited a lot of folks on the left, particularly members of the Democratic Party who are running for president. You're the only person who's accepted thus far, and so we appreciate the conversation. It really does mean a lot to me that you would come on, and I'm sure that you will get some slings and arrows for it.
Well, I hope I can set a trend. Like, I hope I'm the first but not the last.
So let's start with this. What prompted you to run for president? Where are you coming from? What's your backstory for folks who don't know you?
So I certainly was not one of these kids who grew up thinking they were going to run for president. I was born in upstate New York. My parents are immigrants from Taiwan. They met in graduate school at UC Berkeley. So my father was an engineer for GE and IBM. He generated 69 U.S. patents over his career. And being an academic was sort of the family business. My dad's a professor now, my brother's a professor, my grandfather was a professor. So I, like you, went to law school. I went to, I studied economics and political science in college, didn't know what to do, so I went to law school, and then practiced law for 5 unhappy months, and then left to start an ill-fated.com in the first bubble. But then I'd been bitten by the bug and said this is much better than being an unhappy lawyer. And so I worked at a healthcare software company, and then I became the head of an education company that grew to become #1 in the U.S. and was acquired by a public company in 2009. So at this point, my career was going really well, but it was the wake of the financial crisis. And I thought that we had all of these whiz kids heading to Wall Street and McKinsey, and not enough starting generative businesses in places like Detroit or Cleveland or Baltimore or St. Louis. So I quit my job. I started an organization called Venture for America that helped create several thousand jobs in those cities and another dozen cities or so around the U.S. And the reason I'm running for president is that when you spend time in the Midwest and the South, you see the aftermath of the fact that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, Iowa, all the swing states that Trump needed to win and did win. And so I'm running for president to wake up America to the fact that it is not immigrants that are causing economic problems. It is the fact that we're going through the greatest economic and technological transformation in the history of the country. It's called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and we need to progress to the next stage of capitalism in order for our country to prosper in an age where artificial intelligence and self-driving cars and trucks will become real.
Now, you talk a lot in the book, The War on Normal People, about these people who are in the middle of the country and whose talents are sort of being left behind, their jobs are sort of being left behind. Do you think that the Democratic Party has properly spoken to a lot of those people? There's a feeling that President Trump won specifically because the Democratic Party largely forgot about those folks.
Well, to me, there's a very powerful central economic narrative where if you look at the voting district data, there's literally a straight line up between the adoption of industrial automation in an area and the movement towards Donald Trump. And so to me, Democrats need to try and address that set of problems. And if they fail in that, then they're not trying to solve the problems that got Donald Trump elected. Like, Donald Trump is not himself, he's to me a manifestation of this greater economic mega trend. And it's up to the Democratic Party, in my opinion, to help America navigate this wave as opposed to focusing too much on Donald Trump, who to me is a symptom.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about the effect of automation, and some folks I've talked to, sitting in your chair, have suggested solutions to automation, including restriction of automation itself. Tucker Carlson suggested on my show, for example, that he wanted to actually legislate away self-driving trucks. You don't make any of those sorts of sweeping pronouncements about limiting technology, really, in your book.
No, I'm very pro-progress generally. I think there might be isolated instances where you need to at least try and buy some time because, I talk about truckers a fair amount in my book, where being a truck driver is the most common job in 29 states. 3.5 million truck drivers, 94% men, average age 49. And so if you can foresee that you might displace tens or hundreds of thousands of these truck drivers over a particular period of time, you might want to slow that down because you might need to buy yourself time to help assimilate that adjustment. But generally speaking, trying to just like stop automation is a loser. over time, because you might even be able to like stick your finger in one part of the dam, but then something else is going to break anyway. It's like like if we tried to automate away to say, hey, you can't automate truck driving, then there'd be some other part of the economy where you'd look at it and say, well, I guess we're going to automate away the warehouse workers, we're going to automate away the dock workers. Like, you can't stop it all.
So with all of that said, the solutions that you propose are pretty big government solutions. You're a guy who obviously worked in the private sector, and you ran a charity that was specifically designed.
I almost thought about the same thing too, bro. Like, I'm good, but I want to be better. Like, I want to have a larger income, because I got this house now and there's like so much I want to do to it, but I need to make more money. And I'm looking like, so right now they say that's the best time to look for a job. So I've never actually done this before, like looking for a job while I still have a job. Because normally, like, my jobs are just okay. It's like, all right. And I absolutely enjoy my job right now, but I'm still looking for something different to see if I can make like 60 grand a year. But you have to do like some crazy stuff because I only have a GED. What do you do with my GED? I be pulling like fucking 40 a year, 45. Because my art subsidizes a lot of my income throughout the year. And then I normally still find like pretty decent jobs. Like right now, my job, like, I think I'm the only non-college grad who works in my office, yo. Everybody else has a degree in something. No lie, bro. And me, I just know shit, so. But yeah, a lot of these jobs are not gonna be there. And like I say, considering getting the CDL now, and I mean this trend isn't gonna be overnight. In 20 years, there's still gonna be like truck drivers, I feel. But maybe, a very marginal percentage of the last companies that just refuse. Yeah. Are you gonna eat up there? Yeah. No, I'll come down. I might go downstairs and eat. I'm hungry as shit. Get out this fucking paint smell for a minute. I'm using a lot of, I'm dipping my brush a lot in this, medium. I don't know, for some reason it seems like extra strong this morning. Sometimes I can smell these chemicals way more than others. I don't know what that means. Like for years, my Prussian blue, like I never really noticed it. But now, like if I like now, his blue section is a lot of Prussian blue. And it just seems extra strong when I be painting with it. Not unless they change the formula of their paints over the years or something, but I don't know, man. I'll be getting sensitive to this shit. Or am I getting old? I'm getting too old to paint. This nigga say he's sensitive to the paints. Oh my God. How do you make a railing look like a railing? Yo, being a painter is like, yeah, yeah. Yo, being a painter is like being a good magician, yo. You gotta fool the eyes. The only thing is, my hand is not quicker than the eye. You can follow my hand nice and slow. And that shit still fool you. Like, yo, that picket look like it got 3 sides to it. But it don't. It's flat as shit. It's flat. It just looked like that. Because I'm a magician. She's like magic, son. It's magic, man. It's not a solid object. I just make it look that way. How? With the colors, man. It's the colors, bro. If you put this color right here, if you put it next to that other color right there, and then 3D. Tell me that ain't magic. What? Magician. Exactly. I think I need a new paper towel. That one's painted up. It's been painted. Paint it up. No, that wasn't even funny. Ooh, yeah. Damn. That's the punchline. Shit ain't even funny. This nigga crazy. Oh, let's see. Come on, brush. Get out. Yo, there's some goop that's in the bottom of that jar that I keep my brushes in. So every time I get a brush, it's like stuck to the bottom of the jar. You gotta like really fight to get it out. I would clean it, but I like fighting to get my brushes out. Makes me feel like I'm in the real struggle, yo. You know what I'm saying? Make it feel like my painting is something I gotta battle.
Ow. I was literally cooking this and I was so hungry. I was like, bruh, cook faster.
Yeah, I'm about to eat too, yo. I'm fucking starving. Let me get these lines to a good little stopping point.
And you said, damn, like it was a lot. There's only like a little bit of eggs in there from like the last little bit that was in there, in the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we ain't gonna waste that.
Alright, let's see. Yo, this is gonna be like the best banister I've ever painted. Because I've never painted a banister.
You have a spoon up here. your damn utensils went?
Eat some cereal probably.
Probably.
I should have drank some whatchamacallit this morning. Y'all been on that black seed oil? Yo, that shit is disgusting, yo.
Do you notice any changes from that?
Huh?
I said, do you notice any changes from it?
The black seed oil?
What is it supposed to help with again?
Yeah,
I brought you a knife and I know you were ready. I was trying to be nice.
It says it helps with your immune system and digestive system.
Mm.
I try anything to help with my acid reflux.
Oh, you have acid reflux?
Real bad, but
You're lying. Me too. I take medicine for it.
yeah, and I stopped taking my medicine like a couple years ago because
the medicine don't even do shit.
well, it worked for me. I was taking omeprazole, but you gotta take that shit every day.
Yeah,
like even if
twice
you
a
don't.
day.
I'm like that's too much, yo. And so somebody was like, just ginger and honey helps a lot. Garlic and peppers. And somebody's like that said that black seed oil. That should have helped with your digestive.
Creds to me. I made him breakfast.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yo, MP, what's up? Yeah.
But that's natural. That's good that you're doing natural stuff. to help
Oh
with it.
shit.
Did you used to get like nauseous, like real bad, like
From
me? It would be like anything that was very acidic would like fuck me up.
yeah, that shit would just give me like a pain, like felt like I was having a heart attack or some shit.
Nah, it would. I don't want to talk about it because we're eating, but
Right.
I would get sick. Like I would throw up a lot. Mine was real bad.
French toast, eggs, bacon, and bananas. Mm. Mm-mm. And some juice. Give me something to listen to.
Yeah, your bev. Gotta have the bev, y'all. That's your friend, right? Yeah, that's the one. Right.
Yeah, it's the turkey bacon. Yeah, bro, I'm in a whole different house, homie.
You're in a different room. Explain that.
No. I moved last year. And then as soon as I move in, I get banned from YouTube. So, yeah, a lot of people don't know that I moved to a new crib. But now, I don't even got a new room. I got a whole floor, yo. Like, the whole third floor is my art studio. So this is my workspace. And then I have a storage space across the hall in the other room. Like, the whole third floor is my shit. No swine in the house, bro.
What you cooked on that tray?
Chicken.
I did not clean it. You're gonna have to clean that. I did not want to deal with that.
Exactly.
There's no
Well,
swine. I like how you call it swine. You don't say pig. Makes it sound very disgusting. You're a swine.
More room to swing the brushes. I've been saying this since I got this crib, but I'm gonna paint this whole room black. And they say all black studio helps better for the light. How many rooms my woman have?
Yeah.
I live alone, bro. I got a 5-bedroom house and 2 full bathrooms to myself. Yeah, I swear the bathroom the downstairs bathroom, well, I ain't never even washing that shit yet. It's just there. keep telling myself forever, y'all, I'm gonna wind up taking a shower down there just to see how it feels to wash in that other bathroom, but
We should do that today.
yeah.
We said we was gonna do it. You said that last time I was here.
Yeah, we should have went down there.
But the struggle, we was upstairs, so we'll go down and wash your ass down there.
Right,
It would make sense if there was a room down there.
Yeah, that's the
But
obvious
it's a
thing. Like
full bath, not a half bath. Like,
a full bath on the first floor, and then it's like you have to carry all your clothes and stuff down there, and you gotta walk back up here, fucking wet as hell.
but what if your house was really packed and you had people sleeping downstairs in air mattresses and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So there was 2 showers. That would kind of make sense.
That's what I like about it is it's a whole fucking bathroom.
Because God forbid, you never know something was wrong with the one you got up here. You can always go to the one down there.
Right. I took so many hours redoing that bathroom, ripping out the sink. I ripped out the whole inside of the tub and retiled all that shit and added shelves and everything in there. I'm still never washing that shit yet.
What do you mean by that? The curbs on the campus?
It's just a joke.
I see a bunch of straight lines.
Yeah, I needed this. I was fucking hungry as hell. I might cut my nail with grass.
Oh. You should. I was gonna say that. It's kind of long. Thank you.
Get out there and cut that grass today.
When's the last time you cut it? About a week and a
2
half?
weeks ago.
2 weeks? Damn.
That's normally about how often I
should be cut.
would cut. Yeah, like every other week. Man, that shit happens all the time. That shit happening this morning as we speak. Yo, these lines, man. They're getting to me already, bro. I don't know. It's some psychological thing I have with lines. I hate painting straight lines.
Because you want them to be perfect, right? Or no? You just don't like that?
Yeah. I want them to be as straight as possible.
Well,
With as little effort as possible.
that painting of you with the books downstairs, like, was that a long time? Those are lines. How'd you feel about that?
That painting took me 150 hours to do that shit.
Well, then.
And that's why I don't like the lines.
But you was like, it's me. Gotta make it look good.
It takes so long, especially if you're not trying to use a ruler all the time or tape up sections of it at a time. And I always contemplate that too. It's like, no.
Well, you just gotta look at these are big lines.
Yeah.
They're chunky, so you don't have to go that deep. Well, still deep, but.
I don't know. I've been on the. I probably have about 6 paintings I never finished just because I'm like, fuck this painting. I swear to God, bro. In my basement right now, I got like 6 paintings that are undone. And I'm like, fuck it. I don't like it. And I have 2 paintings that I finished, but I almost didn't. Like the very last painting I finished was this right here, bro. I almost stopped halfway through that shit, homie. Like, fuck this painting. This shit is not looking right. But I muscled my way through that one, and it looked good in the end. But I swear to God, bro, I almost didn't finish that shit. And I hate not finishing paintings. That's why I keep them shits in the basement just as reminders of like, look, dude, you wasted your time on that shit. I used to paint till the beard took over my hands. Bro, you said that like 2 hours ago. I've been up programming all night. I gotta take a nap. Then this motherfucker just said, peace, bro. Gotta get some sleep. I'll holler back. Here,
give me.
Oh yeah.
I feel so much better, yo. I was starting to get the crazy eyes.
All right, we right at 2 hours. I might try to go for like another 30 minutes. And I might take a break.
Except it's a time to smoke. Again? And then Lara Croft. I like that movie.
Never Lara Croft to me. He's a
What now?
he's a gamer, a YouTube gamer, but you gotta ask followers.
I cannot wait to do your hair.
Lara Croft, I'll show her some of your videos.
You said you had to go to the store. Do you want to go look at shirts today? Did you ever go do that?
Oh yeah, I need to.
Since you need milk and like a few things right about the pod.
For helping people in the sector, why do you think that stuff is insufficient? Why isn't it that it should just be about private charity, for example? That's been my proposal, is that there needs to be a lot more upswing in private charity, that we need to encourage people to leave some of these dying towns. You seem to suggest that these people should essentially be able to stay in these dying towns and that government should take care of them there.
Well, I think there are several paths forward, but we have to choose one. And we have to figure out together what is the path forward for many, many Americans. And the reason why I'm confident that we need to go bigger is that I was one of the most celebrated social entrepreneurs of the last number of years when I started this multi-million-dollar organization, Venture for America. Movie made about us, honored by the White House. And I realized that our efforts, as much as I was proud of them, were like pouring water into a bathtub that's a giant hole ripped in the bottom. Just the scale is all wrong. Where if you look at the numbers, we're looking at 3 to 4 times the level of labor force displacement as the first industrial revolution, or the industrial revolution at the turn of the century. And so if you say, hey, charities are going to handle that, like charities don't have the scale to address needs this big. And I know this because I've worked in that space and I've hung out with heads of foundations, and just the scale is wrong for the scope of the changes.
So let's talk about the crisis itself. So the book, in particularly the first half, is rather dystopian about kind of its description of the economy, particularly in certain parts. And you do make sort of a bifurcation between big cities where you say the economy is growing and some of the outlying rural areas where you say that it's not growing. What about the argument that the economy seems to be doing pretty well, that every time there's technological change historically, there's been worker displacement, that there will be people left behind because that's just the nature of creative destruction, but that new jobs will be created in ways that we can't foresee right now? What makes you think that this time is sort of the cataclysm?
Well, we will 100% create many, many new jobs that we can't predict. The issue is that they're going to be for different people in different places with different skills than the people that are going to lose their jobs, are going to be able to take advantage of. And so if you look at a couple of big historical references, number one, the Industrial Revolution, which people generally refer to and say, hey, we've been through this before. The Industrial Revolution at the turn of the century included mass riots that killed dozens of Americans and caused billions of dollars worth of damage. We now have Labor Day as a national holiday because of those riots. We implemented universal high school in 1911 in part as a response to these problems. And Bain and McKinsey project that this time is going to be 3 to 4 times faster and larger than that industrial revolution in terms of displacement of workers. So even if you just rely upon history, you would expect a lot of violence and tumult and conflict. Number two, I studied economics in college, and according to economic theory, if you were to automate away 4 million manufacturing jobs, which we did, those workers would move, get retrained, reskilled, find new, higher productivity jobs, and all would be well. But when I dug into the numbers, it turns out that almost half of those workers left the workforce and never worked again. And of that group, about half filed for disability. And then you saw a surge in substance abuse and drug overdoses and suicides, none of which were in my economics textbook. It didn't say, hey, workers are going to go home, file for disability, and start dying at record levels. So if you look at that fact pattern, you say, okay, that's what happened when 4 million manufacturing workers lost their jobs. That's actually a much better sign of what's going to happen when the 3.5 million truckers and the 2.5 million call center workers and the over 10 million retail workers suffer from the same sort of displacement.
Now, the conservative counter-argument to some of what you're talking about would be, right, all these people went on disability, but they were able to, meaning that a lot of people were able to find a social safety net. They've been reliant on that social safety net. That hasn't actually rebuilt the forms of social capital necessary to have functioning societies. You've seen people who are supported by the government largely, who are still getting addicted to drugs, people who are committing suicide at record rates, who are staying unemployed for years at a time, and who are staying in towns where presumably they really shouldn't be staying. I mean, there are 7 million unfilled jobs apparently in the United States right now, and there are a lot of people who are out of work. And people, as you mentioned in the book, are basically staying where they are. Is the incentive structure maybe misaligned because of government intervention into the system?
You know, it's a very interesting question. And one of the things that I found worrisome in the data was that Americans are migrating between states at multi-decade lows, which is a terrible sign for dynamism. And I love dynamism. I mean, I think people should be moving for work. It's very good economically and culturally. There's something very optimistic about moving to another state for a new job. And so I would love to help more Americans do just that. And one of my policy proposals is that we pay moving expenses for Americans who want to move. Because to your point, there are a lot of Americans who are stuck in place because they're underwater in a mortgage, there are costs associated with a move that they can't manage. But a lot of them are also in place because they have families. And so it's tough if you're going through a hard time and then you have like the only people that you're close to in your life are living in that same town, and then you're like, hey guys, I'm going to leave to move to the big city. You know, you're asking people in some ways to sacrifice what little they can rely upon in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that that's sort of where I am, in the sense that I wonder if this is more about an American mentality shift that has to happen as opposed to government interventionism. So maybe we need to reinstall the sort of pioneer ethos that supposedly animated the United States in the first place, this idea, okay, you do have to pick up and you do have to move and you do have to make difficult decisions to better your economic life. And do you ever worry that the description of the upcoming economic catastrophe is actually disincentivizing people from going out and trying to forge forth? Because I do think that how people think has a major impact on how they decide to embrace the job market.
Well, you know, like you say, you know, I mean, facts are very stubborn things. And so, you know, like I'm convinced that let's say, for example, 30% of American malls are going to close in the next 4 years, and working in retail is the most common job in America. I mean, those are objective facts. Like Amazon sucking up another $20 billion in commerce every year. And so saying, hey, this is happening, I don't think that necessarily is going to freeze people in place. Like the hope is that we can galvanize energy around folks trying to improve their situations and adopting real solutions. But I couldn't agree with you more that there is a mindset that we would love to have more Americans inhabit. And what I'm going to suggest is that there's something very optimistic and confident about that pioneer ethos that you described, which is like, hey, I'm going to just like go and we're going to make it happen. I'm going to farm, you know, in some undiscovered frontier and like we're going to create a better life for ourselves. And that is not happening for a lot of Americans. So the question is, how do we get them from where they are now to that point?
I want to ask you about your perspective on jobs, because it seems like you have an interesting view of jobs. On the one hand, you say that people obviously need them. They need them for a sense of meaning. On the other hand, you seem to suggest that those jobs aren't forthcoming anytime soon. So do you think that it's the jobs that provide meaning or the check that provides meaning? At one point in your book, for example, you specifically criticized
it's the combination of them both. I'm earning a living.
You basically
it's
say
my job
that there
and my
are
pay.
two completely oppositional ideas, page 182. Two completely oppositional ideas that many people seem to hold simultaneously. First, work is vital and the core of human experience. Second, no one will want to work if they don't have to. Well, where do you stand on that? Do you think that work is vital and people are going to work, or do you think that work is not vital and that this hole can sort of be filled by the government paying for it? So I assume that you believe work is vital. I mean, you talk a lot about it in the book, and you're you know, opposing that to
but if you
the idea
love
that
what
people
you
won't
do,
work if they don't have
feels
to.
like you're not
But you're
working.
acknowledging a lot of people aren't going to work. Right? I mean, your basic government proposals involve a lot of paying people, whether they're working or not, obviously.
With the
Like I'm working right now. I'm working for someone else. I'm doing something for someone else who's going to pay me for my efforts. That's technically a job, right?
Men in particular,
but it does not feel like I'm working.
Playing video games and doing other things. We volunteer less than employed men, even though we have more time. our drinking and substance abuse tends to go up, and over time there are some antisocial patterns that develop in idle men to a higher degree than women. And so that's just data. And so if you look at that, you say, okay, this actually is pretty consistent with my intuition that work is incredibly important and vital. It provides structure, purpose, fulfillment, meaning, social structures to people every day. And so the question is, how do we create more things like that? Now, to me, the best path to create that is to put economic resources into people's hands in the form of a freedom dividend of $1,000 a month, which would then allow more people to do the sort of work that either they want to do or that their community has a need for. And the goal is to create jobs, and putting $1,000 a month into people's hands would create at least 2 million new jobs, just because the buying power would just go right back into local businesses and communities. Now, all that being said, I do think our definition, our notion of work should evolve. And one example I use is my wife is at home, and we were talking about our families. My wife is at home with our 2 young boys, one of whom is autistic. And right now, she works very hard. I mean, she works harder than I do. I'm running for president, and she's working harder. But the market values her work at zero. Society, in some ways, minimizes the value of that work. And so, to me, we should broaden the definitions of work to include being a parent or caregiver, but also arts, creativity, entrepreneurship, journalism, things that we know people, coaching, volunteering, civic engagement, things that we know people want to do more of, but that right now society will systematically either undervalue or not have any monetary value.
So I want to ask you about the location of meaning. So I've heard, as I say, I think there's a point where the populist left sort of meets the populist right. And the suggestion is that if we structure the economy in certain ways, that this will provide more jobs, and that the jobs are what are going to provide meaning. But you also suggest that the freedom dividend, while it may create more jobs as sort of an ancillary benefit, there are a lot of people who are not going to be able to work, who are going to be on the freedom dividend, who are going to be receiving UBI. In fact, UBI studies don't show increased employment in virtually any study. At best, they show even employment or declines in employment in the areas in which they are tried. So, and then you sort of suggest that people will be able to find meaning in all the other things you're talking about, volunteering and community and art. But we're not seeing that with disability. So people are dependent on disability. They're not engaging more in art making or learning to play violin or volunteering more. They're engaging more with video games, as you talk about, or drug use, or in some cases, they become suicidal. We're seeing family breakdown with all of that. So what makes you think the freedom dividend is going to have a different effect on human behavior than, for example, current government welfare systems have?
Yes. So 3 things. The first is that money does not somehow convey meaning. The best it can do is maybe provide circumstances that help people find a path towards some work that they find fulfilling. The second thing is that I have a friend whose sister is on disability, and she's afraid to volunteer in her community because she's afraid she'd be noticed as able-bodied and thus lose her benefits. And so this freedom dividend would be unconditional and free and clear, and so that person would be volunteering and would not have any fear that her benefits are going to be taken away. The third thing is that there's something very, very important about conceiving of yourself as either able or disabled. And so if you're literally getting a check for being disabled, your 2 ideas of yourself are, 1, I'm genuinely disabled, and most people do have some kind of genuine ailment, physical or mental, or 2, I'm defrauding our society and I'm actually totally fine.
Can't just.
And I'm going to suggest that most people
There are plenty of ways to fall to your death, but
it's like a rare person
if you're just doing some dumb shit,
fine,
you fall to your death.
Taking a picture, honestly, I would say.
Fabricating
you can't even get into heaven for that shit.
And so if you invert that mentality, you say, hey, you are not disabled. You are fine. You are a citizen of the richest, most advanced country in the history of the world, and you are getting this cash, and it's going to be yours no matter what because it's yours and you deserve it. Then that would be more constructive in terms of pushing more people into things that they feel good about and society would feel good about than if we say, hey, there's something wrong with you and we're going to give you this cash in order to survive.
So with all of that said, is your proposal for essentially universal basic income, the freedom dividend, do you see that as substituting for the vast agglomeration of welfare state policies we currently have, which was sort of Milton Friedman's proposal, or do you see it as another dividend on top of whatever is being paid? We're already paying tens of thousands of dollars per household in poverty in the United States in welfare.
Yes. So
Well, I don't
my
think
plan,
it's
the freedom dividend,
like
would be
they're saying it's a
opt-in.
life,
But if you opt in, then you will forego
animals.
benefits from
We
the
breed
existing
animals
program.
just to kill them to
And
eat
so,
them.
if you are currently receiving more than $1,000
Yeah.
in benefits, then you would look at this and say, "Hey,
That's
like,
giving a
I'm
life.
not
Someone
going to
else's.
do anything, and my life is going to be as it is."
Animals aren't
If you
sentient.
decide to opt in for the
Like,
freedom dividend,
it's
it
a
might be very
life. They're
appealing
saying
because
life,
it's
so if you're
unconditional,
bringing
there's no
life into
administration,
general,
no
you're
case
saying any
manager,
living thing.
it's $1,000 cash, you can do
A lot
whatever
of
you
people
want.
are like, me
And
and
then
my
you
mom got
forego
into it
the
about it yesterday.
enrollment.
It's like,
And
it's a
so
living
what
thing,
what
so
you'd see is
anything that's
we would
living.
shrink the enrollment in the 126 or so different welfare programs that we have, and then over time those enrollments would go down, which is very much the goal, because the current programs, no one loves them, and they do have many unfortunate incentives attached to them, where if you do better, then you get less, and so many people are underreporting how they're doing, or constructing a world where they're maximizing the benefits.
So when we talk about the cost of this thing, and you talk about it in the book, The War on Normal People, you talk about it'll cost maybe $1.3 trillion a year. That would be in addition to current budgeting, presumably. You know, honestly, that's obviously a lot of spending off the top. But beyond that, it does raise the question as to, would this be limited in any way? Because every government program, as Ronald Reagan said, basically has a bill of immortal life. And if it were to start at $1,000 a month, inflation adjusted, how quickly does this become somebody saying, you know what, it really ought to be $3,000 a month, because that's a popular pitch. Everybody gets more free money. Where's the logical limit on that, and how do we limit that from just eating the rest of government? Because entitlement programs obviously are running us ragged now. They obviously represent 2/3 of the federal budget. Adding another massive entitlement program on top that doesn't have a limiting principle, how do we limit that so it doesn't become the overarching goal of government and actually put too much of a press on the capitalist system?
Yes. So the first thing is, I would disagree with the characterization of a dividend as an entitlement program. And there's one state that's had a dividend for 37 years, and that state is Alaska, which is deep red. It was passed by a Republican governor, and he said, look, who would you rather get the money? The government who's just going to screw it up, or you, the Alaskan people? And the Alaskan said, us. And he said, I thought you'd say that. and then now everyone in Alaska gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. It's created thousands of jobs, it's improved children's health and nutrition, it's decreased income inequality, and here's the kicker, it's wildly popular in a deep red state that hates taxes. Because they see it's like, this is one of the few things the government gets right. Like, I actually get this dividend, it's great, I look forward to it, it's real, I can spend it, my kids get it, like, life is better as a result. And so, like, it's different from an entitlement in both its structure and the way it's utilized. So that's big picture number one. Number two is, right now you're right about the fact that our entitlement programs are creeping ever higher in terms of both proportion of the federal budget and the enrollments, where there are right now more Americans on disability than work in construction, as one example. And these trends are not going to abate, they're actually going to accelerate. So the question is whether we're going to try and restructure those programs to something that we can all embrace and get excited about, that will actually help keep American families and communities strong, instead of waiting for more and more people to get debilitated by, for example, an automation wave that's going to displace the significant proportion of the people that hold the most common jobs in the economy, which we're in the midst of right now. And so the question is, do you wait and say, okay, like, I guess we're gonna have more and more people qualifying for these welfare programs that have very negative incentives attached to them, or are we going to own the reality and say, look, we get it, we're going to have this dividend, and then we're going to reverse the incentives of those programs over time. Now, to your question about like whether there's a logical limit, the reason why $1,000 a month is so magical is that it's enough to make a huge difference in the lives of individuals and families. It's going to help children's health and graduation rates and mental health, and, kids will have a real chance to learn. Will reduce domestic violence, will reduce hospital visits. But it's not enough to be a labor replacement, because $12,000 is below the U.S. poverty line of $12,700. And so people are still going to have to work to prosper and have a life that anyone's going to be excited about. So my goal would be to put in this $1,000 dividend and then keep it at that level, but it's going to be up to, and this is a big leap, but we have to trust that future legislatures will be responsible with the fact that...
Yeah, good luck to that.
Well, but again, you can look at something like Alaska. They've had it for 37 years, and they've pegged it to a particular resource. And so what I'm suggesting is, what is the resource that we should peg this to? And the resource we should peg this to is technology, where we have artificial intelligence and self-driving cars and trucks coming, And Amazon, this $1 trillion tech company that's sucking up $20 billion in commerce and causing 30% of malls and stores to close, they paid zero in federal taxes last year. And so what I'm saying is, like,
right
that's
up
not
in
their
Dixon City,
fault.
they
It's their
got
job to pay.
AC Moore, Hobby Lobbies, and Michaels.
But that
So
means
you
we've done a
can
bad job designing a system.
kind of go with who
Amazon's
got the
paying less in
cheapest
federal taxes
prices.
than you are, or he is. Or
I mean, I wonder if that's true though, because the fact is that we focused a lot on production, but we focused very little in this conversation on consumption. And the fact is that when we talk about sort of this halcyon past where everybody was employed and people in the manufacturing industry were employed, like you describe at one point the 1970s, and I want to read it because I think it's sort of telling and interesting. You say some economic problems existed, growth was uneven, and inflation periodically high, which might be a mild understatement. I mean, the 70s were not great economically, but income inequality was low. Jobs provided benefits, and mainstream businesses were the drivers of the economy. There were only 3 television networks, and in my house we watched them on a TV with an antenna that we fiddled with to make the picture clearer. Now, I'm not nostalgic for a time where I had 3 channels on a TV where I had to fiddle with the antenna. There are obviously benefits and drawbacks to the economy, but the fact is that people are living significantly better on the average in the United States than they were in the 1970s, if only from the ability to consume more. I mean, the fact is that everybody has a microwave, everybody has a cell phone, everybody has a car. We're talking poverty line folks have these things. So when we talk about what Amazon is not paying,
we're able to consume more because the technology gets cheaper over the years, not because people make more money over the years. Because when cell phones first came out, only the very, very rich people could have a cell phone. When CDs first came out, anything, all new technology is expensive and the poor people can't afford it.
And the number of people who are affected by lacks of production jobs are significantly lower than that.
Well, it's one of the things that I say in the book, which is that if you have like this focus on consumption, like cheap stuff and access to apps on your smartphone are great, but they don't substitute for having a functioning Main Street or a job to go to. And so it's true that there are winners and losers in this economy. Unfortunately, right now, the losers are outnumber the winners significantly by at least some measurements. And we talk about the 70s to now. Income growth has stagnated for many Americans from the 70s to now in real terms. And the last 3 years, we've seen this declining life expectancy that's hand in hand with a surge in suicides and drug overdoses, which is a sign that at least some Americans are experiencing the lack of productive opportunity much more sharply than having access to cheap consumer goods can somehow make up for.
Well, I think that's obviously true for a subset of the population. It is also true that for 100% of the population, the consumer
we get cheap stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just cheap stuff. I mean, it's pretty fantastic and great stuff. And if the idea of UBI is that raising living standards on a generalized level results in better outcomes in a variety of areas, then one of the ways to do that is to continue to provide that cheap stuff. And so there is a balance here, I would assume.
I like cheap stuff.
So let's talk about your view of capitalism, because I think that there's something interesting there. So you talk about what you call human capitalism, the idea of changing our notion of capitalism where essentially it changes how we see the market. You say human capitalism would have a few core tenets. 1, humanity is more important than money. 2, the unit of an economy is each person, not each dollar. And 3, markets exist to serve our common goals and values. Well, on sort of an abstract, in a vacuum, I agree with a lot of that stuff, obviously. I mean, I have kids, I have parents, right? Humans matter more than money. And if you ask me to sell my child, obviously the answer is no. I like my kids, so although it depends on the day. If you're asking, the units of an economy, dollars versus people, there I start to have a little more trouble just on the economic level, because what I'm actually paying for is a skill set, not a person. Obviously, the value of each human being is infinite, but the value of each human being's labor is certainly not. And then when you say markets exist to serve our common goals and values, this is it's really interesting, because as I mentioned Tucker, because I think that you and Tucker Carlson are on the same page with regard to some of this stuff, so is Bernie Sanders for that matter. The idea that markets exist to serve people, I think, is something with which I disagree, and I'll explain. When we talk about markets, my view of a market is essentially a recognition that my labor belongs to me. A free market is just my labor belongs to me, in the same way that free speech is my viewpoint belongs to me. You can't say that the markets exist to serve our common goals any more than you say that free speech exists to serve our common goals. Free speech is just a recognition that I, as an individual human being, have worth. And so free markets are the same thing. It's a recognition that I, as an individual human being, my labor has worth. So the idea that the market is just something that is an institution that we have come up with together and then we play with, I'm not sure that's an accurate description of what markets actually represent. There's an underlying value to human labor that is not just a common system we all decided to come up with one day. It's just a recognition that I can alienate my labor and you can buy my labor. Is that wrong?
Well, so to me, the fundamental shift that we have to start getting our arms around is that certain people's labor is not going to be worth enough for them to make the kind of living that is required for them to live what they would consider a good life. And so if you look at truck drivers as an example, because I use them because they're the most clear. So you have 3.5 million truckers making about $46,000 a year. And that it's a punishing job. They're behind the wheel of this truck for up to 14 hours a day, and they're away from their families 4 days a week, and the rest of it. But their market value, with the market of their time behind the wheel, it's about $46,000 a year. Now, if 5 to 10 years from now, my friends in Silicon Valley come up with trucks that can largely drive themselves, and then we're going to go to that truck driver and say, hey, turns out your market value, like your time behind the wheel, it's not 46,000 anymore. It's 26. It's 0. It's like, whatever the number is. And so there's like a change building up in our economy that the freedom to trade your labor for money to make a good living for yourself, that's actually going to end up breaking down in more and more situations where that truck driver is no less willing to trade his time. I mean, he still wants to do it. But then
I don't know. I'm not sure on that UBI, yo.
Time's not worth what it was. And it's not just a trucker. It could be a radiologist who makes hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they interpret radiation films, say, I'm very willing to do this. Like, I like getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then we say, hey, turns out that AI can see tumors you can't, can refer to millions of films, not thousands, can see shades of gray that are invisible to the human eye. You lose. Like your time all of a sudden goes from worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to, let's call it, like half that or 0 or whatever the number is. And so I think that it worked for a long time when the average American could show up and say, if I'm willing to work hard and I've got a strong back, I can make a decent living for myself and my family. Like it was in the 70s, where if I showed up even to a manufacturing plant, I may be able to provide a middle-class life for myself and my family. But then if that stops working, then we need to start thinking differently about how the labor market functions.
So if we've moved beyond sort of the concept of free markets as places where we can alienate labor because some people are not capable of alienating their labor is just not worth anything, then is the idea that the collective owns the labor of everybody and gets to redistribute the products of that labor? Is that what we're talking about here? Because it gets into dicey territory.
No, and I agree with that. And that's actually the outcome we have to avoid, if at all possible. And this is one reason why my flagship proposal is we give every American $1,000 a month free and clear, and that doesn't somehow usurp your labor, your time. That actually, if anything, liberates your labor, your time. That if you have a little bit more freedom from scarcity, then you can start making moves towards the sort of work that you want for yourself, that you value, that you would find fulfilling and exciting.
So one of the things that you talk about, and I think this is interesting because you are obviously a big believer in the ability of people to make choices with their own money, and this is why you believe in the freedom dividend is the idea. I'm giving you the cash, it's your decision what to do with it. Yeah. At one point in the book, you talk about the idea that folks who are poorer in the United States are actually good with money, that essentially that they are going to be responsible with the money that they have. You say on page 185, the idea that poor people will be irresponsible with their money and squander it seems to be a product of deep-seated biases rather than emblematic of the truth. And you do this in sort of a broader attack on the meritocratic idea, in which you say, well, this isn't completely a meritocracy. Obviously, there's some people who are born into situations they can't control. You don't always control your own level of merit. That's sort of a meritocratic myth. And this is a position that's held by people, including Ross Douthat, who's sort of a more populist conservative at the New York Times. I wonder, however, if that's true. And the reason that I say that is because if you look at the spending habits of people who are lower down on the income chain, those spending habits don't tend to be more frugal than people who are at the upper levels of the income chain, at least not until those people at the upper levels are pretty secure in being at the upper levels. You see conspicuous consumption among people who are earning an insane amount of money because they can afford it. But the way that those people largely became people who can afford to do that is a certain level of frugality. I take, for example, the buying of lottery tickets. So the lowest income households in the United States, on average, spend $412 annually on lottery tickets. Almost 3 in 10 Americans in the lowest income bracket play the lottery once a week. Now, we know just statistically it's flushing your money down the toilet. It's a complete waste of time. There's no reason to do that. And I understand people do this out of despair, but that doesn't change the economic truth, which is that people may not make good decisions with their money, which is one of the reasons we have programs like Social Security. We don't trust you to keep your own money and put it in a 401k account. We believe that you're going to take that money and blow it on whatever you're going to blow it on. Are you worried that we grant UBI and then people just don't spend it on health insurance, or they don't spend it on saving for the future? Instead, they just spend it on whatever they're going to spend it on, provides a temporary boost for the economy, and we're back in the same position because people at lower levels, at least people who tend to stay at lower levels, people who are permanently poor in the United States, don't tend to make great decisions with their money. Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, it's a concern, for sure. And one of the things that that drives me is that there's been a lot of research over the fact that if you're poor, if you're stressed out about your month-to-month bills, it actually consumes a lot of your mental bandwidth. And it reduces your decision-making ability, reduces your functional intelligence by 13 IQ points or 1 standard deviation. And so if you get the boot off of someone's throat and say, look, you're going to be here, your kid's going to be here, all will be well, then their incentives to save will hopefully be higher. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that like everyone's going to go and like do exactly what I would see as like optimally responsible with their money. But big picture, to return to your original point, I think it's their money. Like I think that if you're a citizen and shareholder of this country, and we can easily afford a dividend of $1,000 a month. And if you make a bad decision, or a decision I would consider like poor in January, maybe you'll make a better decision in February, maybe you'll make a better decision in March, but it's going to be up to you. It's going to be your life, your choices. And I certainly do not think that the government saying like, hey, we think you should just use the money on this or that, like, would be a better way to go.
So it's a pretty libertarian idea, actually. So that doesn't seem to fit necessarily wholly within sort of the democratic belief that, on the Democratic Party side, that when money is signed to you, that we have to kind of stand guard over the money. There are a lot of libertarians who believe in UBI, and they have the same sort of libertarian view, which is your money, you do with it what you want, you live with the consequences. Obviously, that comes with downsides from, I think, the left-wing point of view.
Well, I think many Americans have lost confidence that what we need is another program where someone comes in and says, hey, you know what we think is best for you? This.
What agreements on this?
So, I think many Americans are going to be very excited about being able to make their own decisions on this.
So let's talk about the cost side of this. So you propose value-added tax. You point out that in Europe there is value-added tax, which is essentially a consumption tax. You want to add that on top of the income tax and the business tax as opposed to replacing it. If we were talking about replacing it, I'm on board with you, man. I'm totally for a VAT replacing whatever income tax system we have right now. Where do you think the breaking point is as far as how much the system can support in terms of taxation? Right now we're living pretty heavily on debt, obviously, and adding a bunch of new costs in the form of UBI or quashing economic growth to a certain extent, because as you increase the tax rate, at a certain point you're going to hit a breaking point. Where do you think the ideal tax rate lies? You're setting the taxes. How does the ideal tax system work?
Well, I agree with you that ideally we are not taxing labor in the same way we do now, because you don't want to tax things you need more of. And in my opinion, we need as much work and work-like arrangement as possible. And so ideally, you would find ways to tax things that are not labor arrangements. And so when you say like, hey, if you like swap out, certain income taxes for like consumption tax, you're on board. That to me should be the long-term vision. The question is how you get from here to there. And so the way I would start is by implementing this value-added tax at half the European level is quite modest. But it would help capture some of the gains that Amazon and these other mega tech companies are experiencing and return those gains to the American people. And some of it will float back up to Jeff and Amazon again, because you'll just buy an extra toaster. But like a lot of it will go to your local restaurants and the mechanic and the tutoring service and the hardware store, and it'll help replenish the Main Street economy and create jobs. But there is, to me, like a movement in that direction that we need to get to. Because right now we're just taxing, in my opinion, we're taxing highly inefficiently. And you look around, and the way that we're trying to address this is like, hey, it's like there's like this high marginal tax rate. I try to explain to people all the time, look, Jeff Bezos is worth $160 billion, and most of that is Amazon stock. And it went from zero to being worth $160 billion, and he's way too smart to have a taxable event Like, I can ratchet up the marginal tax rate very, very high, and it's not going to help anything.
This is exactly, by the way, what it was in the 1950s. When people say that there was a 91 top tax bracket in the 1950s, no one paid that percentage because there were a bunch of loopholes in the law that allowed people to escape paying that percentage. The effective marginal tax bracket at that point was effectively the same as it is today. People were paying basically the same amount of taxes.
Yeah, like, people are very, very smart. They're very, very...
Yeah, you work with a lot of those people, right? I mean, tax avoidance is a strategy, and people will do that.
Some of our smartest friends in law school are helping people avoid taxes right now.
Of course. So, and by the way, one of the things that's fun about talking to you is that you and I have very similar backgrounds. I mean, I worked for a law firm for legitimately 10 months, and I was like, I can't do this. I am out. There's just no way to do this. I'm going to ask you one more question about UBI, and it's more of a general question, then I want to get to some of your other proposals, because one of the things that's so fascinating about your candidacy is that you have proposals from here up to Wazoo. I mean, you're a policy-heavy dude. So, on UBI, final question, which is, how much can money actually do? I wrote an entire book, which right now is doing very well, The Right Side of History, in which I talk about, I think, the lack of meaning and purpose in people's lives. And I wonder whether signing a check is going to actually alleviate that in any real way. It seems like there's been a loss of social capital and social fabric that can't necessarily be filled with a government program, and that no matter what government program we propose, if that social capital is not restored through certain basic beliefs in fundamental principles of the country, certain freedoms and certain beliefs in community and the kind of charitable organization that you were the head of.
All right, that only took 2 hours.
Find meaning even if they're making a little more money, because the fact is we're the wealthiest country in the history of the world. People are exorbitantly wealthy. The poorest among us, I mean, the rich would have been clamoring in 1880, or for that matter,
I'm gonna take a break, guys. I'll be back in here later on today.
So, can we fill what is effectively a spiritual hole with a government program?
This is, to me, the generational challenge that we're facing, is how do you create more community ties and structure, purpose and fulfillment and path forward for America?